Hello, Mr. Bishop here. Today we're going to look at scoring while playing tennis doubles. We'll look at some of the terminology and the format of how the scoring works. When I think about tennis scoring terminology, I like to compare it to that of soccer. So we all know in soccer when you have no goals, we say 0. If you score a goal, you have 1 point. A second goal, 2 points. Another time you score, 3 points. And if you score again, you have 4 points. Now in soccer, we represent scoring points. In tennis, we represent scoring points with different number amounts. And if we have no points in tennis, we say we have love. If we score once, we have 15 points. Again, 30 points. If we score again, we have 40. And then lastly, if we score one more time, we have 45 points. But typically, we say that's game. So in tennis, it's basically the first team to get to 45 or game wins the game. However, things can get confusing with tennis scoring because one team has to win by at least 2 scores. So let's say the score is 30-30, so AB versus XY scores 30-30, and XY scores the next point. They'd be up 40-30. Then if XY scored again, they would be 45, and AB would be 30, and XY would win the game. We'll use a W. The confusing part is that, as we said earlier, one team has to win by 2 scores. So it's 30-30, that's fine, but if XY scores the next point, and instead of scoring again, AB scores, we now have a tie, and the next point will not win the game. And when this happens, we call it deuce. Another tennis terminology. And once we get to deuce, or a tie when you need to end the game, we forget about numbers, and we just use word terminology now. We'll cover that next. So in the game, A, B, and XY tied before the game ended, and so we call that deuce. Now if XY scores the next point, they get advantage. And meaning if they score the next point, they win. So if XY scores the next point, they become the winner. However, if XY did not score the next point, if they are at advantage, but AB scored the next point, then the advantage would be over, and we would go back to deuce. And we'd start again. Maybe XY scores the next point again, they'd be at advantage. If they scored the next point, they'd be winner. Maybe AB scores the next point, so they're on advantage, and then XY scores next point after that, so AB loses advantage, goes back to deuce. It just goes back and forth until one team scores 2 points after deuce, becomes the game winner. Typically in tennis, you play a series of games, so it's usually a 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 5. So if XY won the first game, they'd be up 1-0. And then you play your series.